You got nothing in your ears?
Still nothing in my ears.
What is wrong with you? All right. Hey, guys, we're live on the radio. That's what a Jedcast is, by the way. All right. Hey, can you turn these other two off? And let's see.
I mean, I can hear you. It's fine. But
No. All right, I'm off now, and I'm on. All right, let me see why you're not getting anything. You hear anything click?
No.
No clickaroos? All right, that's me. All right. Well, we're going to have to go to another one.
I was going to say, I have you guys on 1 and 3.
All right, I don't think that he can hear, so we're going to go to another one with no number or name on it. So there you go. See if you can hear anything now. Testing 1, testing 1, testing 1. You got it now? All right, but I can't hear him now. I'm on 3 testing. All right. This is great radio, don't you think?
it's lovely.
It's just lovely. All right, all those other ones are down. You're not going to rattle this time, are you? Yeah, that one actually is holding still. Adriana Alvarez is our producer for Mastering Local Marketing. She just interviewed the governor. Any huge hiccups or anything I need to know about?
No, nobody cursed on the air, so that was plus. That's not to take a shot at our mayor. We love when the mayor comes on. It was just that one time he scared me for a second because I was just like, oh, there we go. We're getting fine. But nope, it was all good.
Yeah,
good
some of these guys, they're region guys. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's how you know they're from the region.
You're a region guy. You've never
region guy.
sworn. You know, even though you're a professor and everything, you come out of a rough and tumble background. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's that controlled environment, you know. It's
But
I've heard it before. It's come out.
yeah, but it was all good. I love interviewing those guys. They're very nice, very respectful when they come on. So that's one thing I do like.
cool. Effective local marketing starts with. Hold on a second. Can you go shut that door out there?
Yes.
And Peter Krakowski, could you tell him to keep it down to like 4 or 5, not 7 or 8 out there? Oh, how's this going so far?
It's going good. It's a good thing I have my meeting at 9:30. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. We're doing this a little early because Hanson's like, hey, I'm a meeting. I'm a really important guy on the campus. I got stuff to do. Oh, all right. Then let's wait till she gets back in her seat. How'd you like to be 21 interviewing the congressman with a bunch of kind of, angry callers at times that are like angry about the shutdown. They're angry about all sorts of stuff. And then she has to moderate that.
Well, you had me at how'd you like to be 21? So
All right, here we go. Effective local marketing starts with understanding your customers, and that means mastering the art of listening. In this episode of Mastering Local Marketing, we explore why the best sales and marketing conversations happen when you talk the least and listen the most. Discover how using silence strategically can close more deals and why asking insightful questions builds trust better than any sales pitch. If you want to enhance your local marketing efforts and genuinely connect with your audience, this episode offers practical insights to help you unlock the true power of listening in growing your small business. This is a hard one.
yeah,
For everyone who loves their product.
yeah. Everybody loves to talk.
Especially for small and medium-sized businesses. By the way, I heard the Indiana leader of entrepreneurialism, a new guy, Brian Shutt, speak yesterday here, and he talked, and he said there were 600,000, he used our term, small and medium-sized businesses in Indiana.
Yep.
I thought that was way more than I thought. I had it pegged
Really?
at about 200,000, but no, it's 600,000, he said. And the thing that impressed me about what he was talking about is that everybody is proud of their business. Mm-hmm. And so here I am, you're coming in and we're doing this one now. Everybody who's proud of their business wants to talk about their business.
Yeah.
This kind of translates into an anti-productive stance in a sales meeting.
Yes. So again, this stems from, I talk a lot about consumer behavior and understanding how we interact with our customers and all those types of things. And I've read a few books, I've listened to a few podcasts, and I've done some experiments over the last couple of years where I've strategically, where I'm having conversations with companies and different business discussions that I'm having, on purpose have not tried to discuss what I do and just ask relevant questions to the conversation that's going on. So the idea has been, let me listen to the person that I'm talking to. Let me ask questions. Let me get to know them, and and I hate to say it, let me stroke their ego a little bit to let them share their story, right? Because everybody loves to talk about something that they know. So if you do that, it's really kind of interesting to see what happens because, again, we're talking about kind of stopping, listening, asking questions. But how many people do you know that they just talk and talk and talk, and they're waiting for their opportunity to talk in the discussion? And, whether it's a family member, a friend, a business colleague, whatever it may be. But if you become knowledgeable enough to understand that this is happening, you can actually start to change the narrative and the discussion. And that's what I want to talk about today. So this all stemmed from, my wife and I were shopping for some furniture a couple weeks ago. And we went to a couple different stores, and some of the people were just like, standoffish, let you do your shopping and all of those types of things. But we then had this other one that just had some really great furniture that we were looking at, but it was this constant discussion and let me do this and let me do this and let me do this. And they weren't reading the room, right? They weren't understanding that we're going to ask some questions, but first we need to kind of assess the situation. Whereas the other salespeople that we were talking to kind of just gave us our space, let us know if you have any questions. Occasionally they came back and, asked us, do you have any questions? But it started getting me thinking, like, what's the worst sales experience that you've ever had? And it feels like the worst sales experiences that we have are the ones that are people pushing their product down your throat and not letting you really talk about what your real needs are, right? So we're looking at this furniture, and we have our own needs, right? We have a smaller area in our kitchen that we were trying to put this new table in, and everything that we were looking at was too big. And this salesperson just kept giving us pricing. And it wasn't about pricing at that point. It was literally, you're not listening. We have this. We want to go with this. We're looking for this style of table, and here are the measurements that we have. Let's get it down to the 2 or 3 tables that will work with that. And then we'll have a discussion on price or whatever it is, right? And, we started talking about materials, which made more sense to me because you've got softwoods and you have hardwoods and all this other stuff. And when we looked at it, this guy was pushing price on us mostly. And price was probably the 3rd or 4th variable, right? Like we went everything from a $500 table to my wife looked at this one table that was $8,000. And I'm going, I don't know where you're going. I don't know where we're going to end up on this, but let's find what you want first. Listen to us and the questions that we have, and then we'll get to the pricing of, once we narrow it down. So we didn't go back. We didn't make a phone call. We didn't buy from this person. We've ended up purchasing a table somewhere else, but it just wasn't right. It wasn't the right fit.
One of the things that impresses me on that, of course, this is the Mastering Local Marketing Podcast, episode 87. Stop talking, the art of listening. A lot of it just kind of sticks with me now as I ask you, like, we did a recent podcast about Matt's coming here and he's helping us consult on some things. And the more that you talk and you analyze our business and other people's businesses, I get the feeling that it's all a process and a system. Mm-hmm. And you talked about, like, you're basically applying a system to everything that you put out there. But you also mentioned about, like, All right, I go to a movie and I know, and they write up and they set up the first half, and I can almost write the second half because I followed the system and the process of all the past movies. And I got to tell you this. I went to a movie with my wife. Julia Roberts plays a professor at Yale. And one guy was in the beginning of the movie, and then it started getting slow about two-thirds into it. And I go, that other dude, Andrew, has to come back, and he has to create some ruckus here. And she says, why do you got to do that? and like if it's a baseball or a basketball game, and I've announced 1,000 games, and I've played in 10,000 and watched 50,000. All these numbers, and you get a rhythm. I go, these guys are going to lose. They should have scored there. Instead of getting 7, they got 3 twice, like the Bears on Sunday.
Yeah.
I go, this game's over. I'm not even going to watch the second half. What do you mean they're within 1 point? No, they tried to score twice. They got to the 8-yard line, but 2 times and they didn't score. I go, this game's over. Oh, why do you got to do that? You think you know the ending all the time. You are applying system to everything. You're even now applying a system to listening.
Yeah.
And there are a few pointers to this. I know you asked me a question, but I know we got to get to these. But my worst sales experience, I had one time I wanted to buy life insurance.
Oh, yep. Go ahead.
And I had a guy that I knew, or my wife knew, both of us actually. And the guy came over, and all he had to do was say, hey, here's what they are, and blah, 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 and we'll buy it. But he came in just so hot on how great the product is and never listened to what we were saying. I literally had to wake up in the morning, and I'm like, whatever. I know what I want to spend a month. I want to spend about $2,500 a year. It's all I want. Oh no, what about this? What about this annuity? Oh, and this, and we're the greatest company, and we just got this award, and we just got that award. And finally, I'm like, hey, dude, let us think about it. And I never talked to him again about it because it was so surprisingly aggressive.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot when you go in. Like, who wants to go buy a washer and dryer? I finally found a guy. And he was just like, well, what do you need? Well, we need it. It needs to fit here, and it needs to load this way, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, well, what else? What color? This and that. And listened, and then I'm just like, he goes, well, we could do this, this, and this, or whatever. Those are our options. Didn't say any crazy things. And I'm like, you're in. Just write it up, whatever she wants. Yeah. Because I could see right now that you understand what I want. The pricing is the pricing, and let's call it a day. So there's 2 different things. But you asked about that worst sales experience. That was in my late 20s when I bought my first life insurance policy. And I'm like, man, I never want to have to do that again.
Yeah.
And so what about yours?
I think the life insurance policy was probably my worst as well. We had this one guy that we bought from back when we first had kids, and he basically came in, asked a bunch of questions, built something. We were fully on board. The last time, somebody, they started pushing certain products to us, and I kept asking questions. I'm like, can you explain this? Well, I literally had to go online to understand what I was being sold. And then I said, okay, well, this piece here I'll never see. This piece here I can probably do that over here by myself, and all this other stuff, right? And it was, they weren't, nice person, just wasn't listening, right? And I'm sitting there going, okay, well, this is the need that we have. I can, in theory, do it myself. I'm pretty well versed in investments and things like that I can do it myself if I really wanted to. So why would I go with you versus doing it myself? And it was just like, oh, no, you need this product. And there wasn't a lot of explanation, right? So it was a lot of talking. And I hear this so often that people will say, oh, I'm a great salesperson. I can talk to anyone. And I say, that's not a great salesperson.
That is number one. That is the myth of the great talker.
Yeah.
We're going to go through a few of these. I'll just tell you. It's the myth of the great talker. Listen versus waiting to talk. We'll do those 2 first. The great talker.
These are the people that come out, and I hear this a lot with young salespeople. They're like, "Oh, I could talk to anyone. I can sell anything. I can sell, tell me how to sell this pen," kind of thing. And what I laugh about is they're not listening. They're not even listening to how they're coming across by saying that, right? It's that cockiness that nobody wants to be sold by somebody that's pushy. what we want to understand is you got to ask a million questions because, and let me take you back. There was a project that I was working on at the university, and we used to have kind of these three different things that we would sell for a certain price point and all this. And, it was basically, we put them out there and they would say, they'd be like, oh, this is, wonderful things that we're doing and all this, blah, 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 blah. And everyone always just kind of bought the bottom tier because they didn't really see the differences in the three. They were put together and they just bought the bottom one. I came in, I wiped it all out, and I said, all right, we're not even going to have packages. We're going to just have conversations. And, this was years ago. And basically it was, person walks in, what are you looking to do? Well, we'd like to do X, Y, and Z. I said, okay, if I can do X, Y, and Z, and I throw in, A and B as a bonus, can we get you to agree to this? And they're like, absolutely, let's do this. Let's write it up. It took me like 5 minutes to do that, right? Now, that package that we were discussing at that point was 3.5 times the price what we used to do. And it took me 5 minutes. I didn't present anything. I said, what do you want to do? X, Y, Z. And I threw in A and B because it cost us nothing else to do. And I said, it's for this price. And it was 3.5 times the price. And people were like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And it wasn't the fact that people were focused on the price. People were focused on the fact that I listened to what they wanted, built it into a bundle, and gave it to them. And they weren't even looking at the price at that point. There was no comparison. There weren't different, there wasn't a price point of, just using simple math here, $100, $200, $300. They weren't, comparing them. It was literally, you gave us exactly what we were looking for, and we're going to pay that price. So that's what I mean by listening versus just talking and saying, here are our three packages.
Oh, here's the practical consideration for the small to medium-sized business, 600,000 of them in Indiana, and is that you're talking about a lot of people who own their own business or are a marketing person in a family company. And by the way, he gave a great talk about the silver tsunami coming up and whatever.
$75 trillion or something that's going to change hands in the next.
Yes. And I was like, wow, he's almost describing me. Everyone kept looking at me. And I'm like, well, what? No, man. I'm a late starter here.
Yeah.
But anyways, you are running your business and you're going at it and you have a little bit of time for your marketing person or you're the marketing person. Mm-hmm. Usually there is a marketing person of some sort and you want it to be structured so that, all right, well, somebody says, well, send me the pricing. Somebody, all right, send me the pricing. It's a lot more difficult to say, well, we just kind of talk to you and then we decide, what'll fit. And you've come on here, as everybody knows, and one of your things in the beginning is Matt, we got to have something to hand people or whatever. And you're like, well, let's just talk to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at first I was like, no, man, we just send them a thing and, hey, here's the pricing. And if you have any questions, call me. All right. And it's horrible marketing, but it has worked just enough to get our startup off the ground. And then I went into a meeting one time without anything. And you were right. I went and I go, well, this is what we do. And I had a little bit of non-pricing literature. Mm-hmm. And it was it was easy. We made a big sale on it. And it was just one time. Yeah. Now, I haven't gone into that. But that was don't worry about it. Just go in and talk to them. I'm like, what? I mean, I don't know what to hand them then. You know what I mean? And that's a practical consideration. What do you say to the small and medium-sized business?
I think from your standpoint, right, if you focus strictly on a price or a package or whatever it may be, that's the focus of the entire conversation.
Gosh, you know what? Right there is your gem.
Right? So if you go in, every single person you talk to has a problem. Right? And we've talked about this probably 20 episodes ago. And I was actually in a meeting last night where we were talking about this, where you've got the hero of the story, which we kind of alluded to earlier in movies. You've got the hero, which is the customer, and then they have a sidekick, which should be you, right, that provides a solution to a problem that they are experiencing, right? And that's kind of how movies and stories and all that work. And that's how marketing works, in the fact that your customer, your potential customer, has a problem. It doesn't matter if they're looking for furniture, or they're looking for plumbing services, they're looking for advertising, or they're looking to just generate awareness for their business, right? You walk in there and you say, okay, what are you struggling with? Are you trying to generate awareness? Are you trying to generate new orders? Are you trying to generate more customers? From your perspective in the sports network, right? It's literally, we're trying to get more people to be part of it on the ad space. And when you sit down and you start talking with them about that, it's, okay, well, what are you doing right now? And, well, we're doing own social and we're posting all this stuff. And okay, that's great. How is that working out? Well, we're not generating as many followers as we would like. Okay. So, if we could put you in front of the local market, here are our download numbers for the games. This is how many thousands and thousands of people are watching on the network every single week. And we could put your commercial in front of them. Would that work? And, well, yeah, but we don't have a commercial. That's fine. We actually build the commercials for you. You do what? And that's where you start to hear, like, you'll build it? Yeah, we'll build it. Given the package that we put together and all that, we can actually build it for you. And you start to listen for the walls that people put up. Like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And you start to get to a point where you're just like, and I think Alex Hermosi uses it best. He's like, from a scale from 1 to 10, where are we? Well, we're at a 7. Okay. We're at a 7. What's it going to take to get us to a 10? What is the one thing that's holding us up? And people start to think, they may have something, they may not. Well, it's the fact that I don't have any ads. Okay, well, we've got people that can help you with that. If we can help you put together an ad, would that take us to a 10? Well, I need to talk. What is it that this other person needs to hear from us that we can get you to help them be comfortable with what we're doing here, right? You see, I'm not saying you need to do this right now, like this opportunity is going to go away. I'm asking you, what is it going to take for you to be comfortable with this? It's fine if you never want to advertise with us. That's fine. I get that. But we're presenting an opportunity here that most people don't take advantage of. We're taking out all of the barriers that most people put up. And so I'm listening, I'm having a conversation, and I have not talked about price. I have not talked about packaging. I am talking about opportunity to generate awareness, to get you in front of the market, the local market that you're looking at. Most people that say they're great salespeople are the talkers. They're the ones that are like, I'm going to sell you on this. Boom, 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 boom. And they just start throwing stuff at you. And they don't realize that they're actually turning people away.
Life insurance, Bob.
Yeah, well, I forget the rep we had, but I would have purchased, if you could have shown me that I'm better off purchasing that versus doing it on my own, and I understood the product that I was getting.
So you really already kind of covered some of these other points about listening to wait to talk versus waiting to talk. It's a similar dynamic here in that we have a ton of people that are filling in for me in the morning and do other shows throughout the day. There's probably 50 hosts over a period of a month, right? Yeah. And a lot of times I got to work with them, right? And then I hired a consultant. The consultant came in and he's like, "Man, you and all your people let the callers go and the guests go on too long." And I'm like, "Well, they got something to say. I bring them in. That's their job to." And I teach the young people that are doing this, listen, let them do it, but always have a follow-up question. Adriana and the producer and I went and talked to a class, and what's her name from Munster that does the entrepreneur classes? LaFletch.
Yep.
And she's like, these guys just don't know how to talk to people on camera. And I'm like, well, all you got to do is ask a question, and as they're talking, write down a keyword, let them finish, and then ask a question about that keyword. And you can go on as long as you want with that. There's something out of what they said interested you. but you have to let them talk. And she's like, that's the one thing they can't do. They don't let the other person talk. They're always butt-in-skiing on them. And, how do you, here's the dilemma for the small to medium-sized business. You do love your product. You almost want to get back to it right away because, you're in a sales meeting or whatever. Even if you're a marketing person, is always loaded up. How do you balance that love for your product to kind of try to jam it into somebody's head and the needs that they have?
So again, it's asking questions and listening. I want everyone to try something.
Okay, here we go. I knew we were going to get to a concrete tip.
So take a rubber band and put it around your wrist. And I want you to go through the next week, and I want you to start having conversations just with people. And as somebody is talking to you and they're telling you a story about something, when they stop talking and you literally go to say, I had a similar experience, and then you start to say that, snap that wristband. Why? Here's what you're doing. You are literally shifting the focus to you versus them by doing that. Right? So you're saying, oh, I've listened to your story. Oh, by the way, I've got a similar story, and I'm going to tell you about it now. So you've completely shifted the focus back to you. It's a selfish way of doing it. Instead, as you sit there and you're going to jump in and do that, you have to go, all right, I need to ask them a question about that story instead. And it's funny because you can actually do this little experiment with yourself and do it over a week, and you will be amazed at the amount of things that you learn and the opportunities that pop up. I did this for about 2 weeks, just having conversations with different people, and the amount of people that were asking me to do consulting and all this other stuff, like literally people were jumping at me saying, I'm learning so much, like you're asking all the right questions. I never thought of that. I would love to work with you in some capacity. All I was doing was asking questions instead of going, I had a similar client that used to do that, right? And let me tell you about them. That would have gotten me absolutely nowhere. But it's such a fun experiment. And I know a lot of people are out there sitting there like, this is a little crazy, but try it. It is amazing at what will happen, and your conversations will completely change.
So trust, obviously, is where you're going. And the listening builds that. So ultimately, you talked a couple of times about just a silence.
Yeah.
Being quiet while they're talking, that's one. But when they're done talking, and then you do a silence pause sometimes they continue. I mean, what's the thinking behind that?
So human beings are very uncomfortable with silence. So what we do is we try to fill the void. And a salesperson that is out there trying to sell something will throw out a price or the offer or whatever it may be. And if the customer doesn't respond right away, they fill the void with more talking. Throw it out there. I mean, obviously you have to ask all these questions and all of this. You solidify everything that they're looking for, but then you throw the offer out there and just, as I would say, shut up. And just look at them and smile. And even if it takes you 5 seconds, let them come back to you because they're going to feel the need to talk. So you're going to get one of two things. You're either going to get a yes or you're going to get one more objection coming back. And you'll go, okay, let's work on that. How can I solve that? Right? So what is the thing holding you up? They explain it to you, you fix it, and you go, okay, let's go back to the package. Let's get you signed up right now. And you shut up again. And it's funny because you will close more customers that way by just closing your mouth versus these salespeople that say, I can talk to anyone. They will talk and talk and talk and talk, and they will never close because they're not listening. Listening is the number one key to selling. And you ask the questions. You get all of the different, things that they're looking for. You solve all of those things, and there's nowhere to say no to, right? I can't afford it right now. Okay. What is the issue with affording? Is it the fact that it's a lot of money up front? we have some payment plans. We can adjust some things. We can take a small payment up front just to lock you in, and then we can bill you later. What are some of the other ways that you would feel comfortable with paying for this? Right? Like there's all these different ways to do it. So what I'm saying is just listen. Silence is great, and ask for the sale and just sit there and just, if it takes 5 seconds, 5 seconds is a long time in a human's brain, right? So you sit there and just complete silence for 5 seconds. It'll feel like 30 seconds, but just do it. Just mentally set yourself to do it.
You feel sometimes like you're getting manipulated by the Matt Hansen insightful systems. You're not too far off, but hey, this is for you, the small and medium-sized business. I would like to say congratulations to one of our very loyal listeners who has turned on many other small and medium-sized business to our podcast. If you could do the same, that would be great. But Gloria Go-Go Morris works for Google in the AI, and she's kind of different in that field in that she has amazing communication skills. She was inducted into the Society of Innovators yesterday and got an award for all of her work. So, Gloria, I know you're listening. Thank you for all you've done around here, especially for nonprofits. And finally, I think somebody around here noticed, and you were well deserving. Final thoughts?
Just ask questions, and honestly, just have some fun with this. Use what we've talked about today and just go out there and start having some conversations, ask questions, listen, and you'll be amazed at how it changes your business as well as your daily life.
Get us wherever you get your podcasts, the Mastering Local Marketing Podcast. Until next time, see you later. Everybody listening on the radio, we record it. It's a Jedcast. What's a Jedcast? It's a podcast you record live on the radio. So I got to read, and I'm excited about this. Hey, don't forget, Mayor Tom McDermott and the City of Hammond are hosting the 12th Annual Veterans Appreciation Day Parade in 2 days, and that'll be on Saturday at 10 a.m. The parade runs down 173rd to Hessville Park, featuring local veterans, high school bands, and even a flyover by the Lima flight team. I didn't know that. Come out and help honor our heroes right here in Hammond. Adriana, I believe this is a different path, correct? Do you know? No, she wouldn't. The parade runs down 173rd from Hessville Park to where? Because it used to go right in front of us here. So I don't know if they've changed the course. Can we get that by tomorrow so that we could be, we're trying to pump this Veterans Day Parade. Of course, we have Veterans Views at 9:05 every Friday for the last 15 years. They'll talk about it. But come on out if you want to do something for Veterans Day. It's this Saturday at 10 a.m. We're going to take a short silence, and we're going to start our next podcast.
That's wrong.
What is it?
This is the title.
All right. How awkward is that 5-second pause?
Oh, I love it.
Adriana's the producer. She's been taught nothing but dead air is the worst thing you can have on radio,
Yep.
and you're sitting there preaching silent pauses.
Let's sit for 6 seconds.
Don't you talk now, then we're going to have to take another one. What do you want to say? All right.
I was like, yeah, you guys are going. So I'm over here looking up for this Veterans Day. You're like, dead air. I was like, uh-oh.
Running a small business means there's never enough time. But what if an unpaid intern can handle your follow-ups, reminders, and promotions automatically? In this episode of MLM Mastering Local Marketing, we explore how email automation can be a game changer for local marketing and small business marketing efforts. You'll learn practical ways to use email automation like MailChimp or Constant Contact to save time, improve communication, and increase sales. We'll have some inspiring real-world examples, including how a local beauty salon is planning to leverage QR codes to trigger creative email campaigns. We'll cover how to build welcome emails, re-engagement campaigns, appointment reminders, and post-purchase thank yous, all designed to run seamlessly while you focus on your business. If you've ever said, I don't have time for marketing, this episode will show you how email automation fits perfectly within your local marketing toolkit to help your small business work smarter, not harder. He's Matt Hansen, digital marketing guru around here in Northwest Indiana. We're honored to have him on our 88th episode of Mastering Local Marketing. Please tell other small to medium-sized businesses about our podcast. Every time someone finds it and then they send us an email, or I see them in the canned goods aisle at Strachan Van Til here in Northwest Indiana. I even had a guy tell me the other day, he's like, man, whenever this is on, I find myself sitting in my car before going in my next meeting. And so please tell other small to medium-sized businesses. There's 600,000 in Indiana alone. Just tell a few, and let's help it grow, because you really can market better for little money and little time. And one of those ways is email. Matt Hansen, I remember in your classes, taking them for my MBA, I'm like, why are we spending so much damn time on emails? All the way down to subject lines and the segmentation of the lists, and the open rates you never really go for too much, and I'm surprised at that. But all of these little minor changes, all these A/B testing, why so much focus on emailing in your classes?
Because it is the best marketing tool you can possibly use, right? So if you've got the list, it's solid. So I was at a chamber event yesterday it was a small discussion about holiday marketing and how to get going and all of those types of things. And we had, I think there were about 10 people in the round table kind of discussion. And, we were talking about different things that they were looking to do and struggles that they were having, and everything kept coming back to email. And we were discussing it, each one of these businesses, and we were talking about email, and I was saying, you can use automation for most of what we're discussing here. Like, this is easy. It's, I don't ever say you should go get an unpaid intern, but an automated email sequence that you've set up can actually be an unpaid intern for you because it's automated. It does it for you. So I wanted to touch today on just simple ways that you can automate some of these things. And, so for example, a lot of our listeners know that I run the digital marketing competition, which is the largest collegiate marketing competition. It's growing like crazy. And, everyone thinks we have this team of 20, 30 people behind the scenes. And literally we use technology and automations to deliver a lot of the stuff that goes out, right? So as a team registers for the competition, we have an automated message that then goes back and sends them an email with the case study. A couple weeks later, or maybe a month later, they get an automated message with the questions that were answered that have all come in, and it goes out. And then they'll get a reminder about a week before saying, like, hey, your entry is due in a week. Here are the 3 things that you got to make sure you do so you don't get disqualified. And then, maybe there's another email in there a day before saying, like, hey, just to let you know, you've got 24 hours, right? So it's this fully automated system, and mind you, I think we had over 250 entries come in from all over the world. So it was 33 and a half hours of content that came in. And you would think with 33 and a half hours of content and 250 plus, student teams across the world. I mean, we're talking about Australia and Ireland and France, and I mean, they're everywhere. And you would think we'd have this huge team, and we put on the finals here and all this other stuff. It's literally, we have myself who's running it, and then I have 2 students that I've recently hired to work on the sales side of it, and that's it. Like, we run this thing, and then obviously we have our wonderful producer here that will help us put on the final event. But like, from an email standpoint, we have automated everything. So when I first started doing it, those 250 people that were registering, I had to physically go email them the case study and all this other stuff over and over and over again. And we just set up automation. So it's basically a form. They fill out the form. They go into a list. When somebody goes into that list, it triggers an email that is set up to go out immediately. And then there's kind of like a drip campaign over time, or we set it up for a certain date where it needs to send out. Completely hands off. It's an unpaid intern essentially that does all the work for me, and the only thing I have to do is answer the emails that come in with questions or whatever it may be from the different teams. So again, I started looking at this yesterday, and we were talking with a beauty salon, and they were saying, oh, well, we've got kind of this issue, and right now things start to die down a little bit. They do tanning, they do hair, and all this other stuff. And they were saying, we'd love to sell more gift cards, but we don't know how to promote that and get people to buy gift cards for others and all this other stuff. So we started having this conversation, and they had built kind of the package. The group had built the package together, and we're talking about it. But then on the flip side, since it was a holiday campaign, I said, we all know those stupid, and I'm going to say stupid, those stupid elf on the shelves that everybody with kids have, and they've got to move every day and all this other fun stuff. But I said, why don't you just make that kind of the listening, quote unquote, listening device in the salon, to where if my wife goes in there and says, oh, I wish my husband would buy a gift card for this, the elf is the one that is sending out an automated email saying, hey, I overheard your wife, say yesterday she would love to have a gift card. And so we started talking about that, how we could automate that. And I said, well, that's as simple as putting up a QR code in the store and having people scan it and saying, hey, give your husband a hint that you want a gift card here. You scan it, you put in his email, his name, your name, and it's an automated email that goes out from the elf, right? And it says, hey, your wife, her name here, right? I overheard her in this salon today wanting, she would like a gift card for this place. Here's a direct link in case you want to, give it to her, right? So it was like playing all this creativity into it, but also using email automation and the fact that you can, it's a simple scan. You put in your husband's name, his email, and as soon as that form is submitted, it goes into the list. The list then triggers the email. The email goes out using the personal information that you put in there to drop into that letter, and now your husband has just gotten the email. It's a subtle hint that you would like that gift card.
So let's go back to the small and medium-sized business that is running harried and is hearing you talking about emails and automating emails and how simple a whole system is. Mm-hmm. But they're entirely intimidated. Right. They're like, oh my gosh, that just sounds like so much work, and I'm, and I'm kind of, I don't, I know how to make certain pieces that, or produce. There's a lot of small mini mills around here, and there's a lot of people that have small to medium sized retail outlets, and they're like, dude, I'm like, I don't have any time, and I'm not all that great with computers as it is. You're talking about something that seems kind of foreign to me. How do you deal with the intimidation factor when you run into that?
I tell them that you can set this up in an hour and it will run for the next 365 days without you ever having to touch it, right? So think of it in terms of this. You have to set up a form, and that's why I mentioned MailChimp or Constant Contact, because they have these automations that are built into it. So you set up a form and you go, okay, what information am I going to collect and how am I going to use it, right? So if I'm asking for your husband's name, your husband's email, and your name, I'm going to use that in the email that's going to go out. Okay. So I collect that. I build the form in one of these platforms. Very simple. You just select, or you can create custom fields, whatever you want to do with it. And you build that form. And then you say, okay, that form, I can either house it within that email service provider and send traffic over to it, or I can, do, it's called inline coding, right? And you can put it on your website. Once somebody submits into that form, you set that form, all the details go into a specific list. So you could name it holiday list, right? Or elf list, or whatever you want to name it, right? Goes into that list. And then you set up an automation. So the automation is as simple as this. When somebody signs up for this list, then they get this email, and they have the templates in there where you can actually build the email. And then you could say, okay, and then once something happens, then do this, then something happens, do this, or you can set it by date or whatever you want to do. It is so simple to set up. If you literally just took an hour and played with it, you would uncover it's the most easy way to set up automations. And then you start to get tricky with it. You start to get creative with it, right? So for example, if you're collecting birthdays or anniversaries from your customers, right? You know that their date is, November 1st, which we're coming up on. Okay, great. I know once November 1st is triggered, right? That's their birth date. They get this email with a discount or promotional code for the next 24 hours to come in on their birthday, right? So all you're doing is it's pulling data out of this list and saying, that's your birthday. That's the trigger. Now you're getting this email. So instead of uploading, I had a client a while back where they would upload January birthdays, February birthdays, March birthdays, and all you really have to do is just tie it to that individual date as the trigger, and it will send it out on that day. And then you're uploading content, but their email, their contact info, but you have their birthday or their anniversary date in there, and it's triggering based on that alone.
So you have a small to medium sized business. You already have hundreds of emails. Mm-hmm. You may have thousands of emails, past customers, people who ask questions, all this stuff. You've never had an email program. What do you do with those past emails, or they could be current still, that you use to bill people, to, there's a myriad ways why people communicate with you, but you wind up with their email addresses and they have interacted with you. So they're going to open anything you send them. So what do you do with those?
We had this conversation last night too. A lot of people will take an email list and they just promotional. And you have to realize that people are looking for a two-way communication of value back and forth. Again, we talked on the last podcast about listening and understanding what your customers want. So, it doesn't matter what kind of company you are. I've mentioned the nativity line that we used to sell back in the day, and it was a collectible. So we took the approach from an email standpoint as a collector. We were announcing the latest pieces. We were offering to our best customers catalogs, right? A $5 catalog, but they were spending $300 with us every year, so it didn't matter, right? We were literally going to the warehouse and finding old pieces that weren't boxed up anymore, that you couldn't find anymore. And we were doing secret sales of pieces that were, we'd have 50 of them, and once they were gone, they were gone. We were providing research, history, all of these things. So people were actually really interested in reading our emails. They weren't just promotional. Now, we would sprinkle sales and promotional items in there that people could buy. But the idea is that you have to have that back and forth communication. So if you're using automations, realize that, don't just send promotional material. You've got to have real value. So from your standpoint, you've got the sports network. What is it that
thousands of emails we don't know what to do with?
What would they be interested in learning? Well, I mean, obviously they probably don't understand the market right now, right? So as you sit down, and I've done this with you, I've sat down and started to understand high school sports as the new frontier, right? So you've got professional sports, which is crazy. You've got college sports, which is crazy now with no money and all this other stuff. And high school is kind of the last frontier. It's the last affordable frontier, and it's local, and everybody is looking to go local at this point, right? So, from your standpoint, it's the comparison of passion, high school sports. These kids, it's your alma mater, and then you have something like a billboard, right? Like, it's a completely different mindset, right? So you're buying into the fandom of high school sports, and you're partnering your business along with it. You talk about the halo effect all the time, right? Like, you're partnering with that, but you have opportunities to spend your ad dollars. You can go out there and be on Instagram. You can go out there and be on a billboard. You can go out there and be on a newspaper or radio or whatever it may be. But like, it's the conversation, and people, when it comes to high school sports, from your customer standpoint, they realize there's value there, but they're looking at it from the standpoint of the only thing they really know is there's a sign that's hanging over a banner or like whatever out there on the stands, and that's what they know for high school sports, right? Like, they don't know the opportunities, and you just kind of like, this is what's happening in high school sports. This is how viewership is growing, and understand that this is the new frontier. Like, those are the conversations that you have to have with those customers. And everyone is different. I mean, everyone has their own unique customers and what they're looking for. Again, we were talking last night, we had insurance, we had financial advising, we had real estate, we had home decor, we had a salon, right? Everyone had their own unique things. And we were talking about investments. And, the fact is, you can't like go out there and say, hey, you need to go buy this stock right now. But you can talk about, hey, we're getting to the end of the year, and I can help you save money on your taxes. I can't help you in March or April. I can help you now. And here are some of the ways that others have been, saving money. So again, think of it in terms of dropping content in an automated way that you don't have to physically do. But utilize the automations as much as possible.
So to, I guess, kind of simplify it and dumb it down for me and for you, if you have a small to medium-sized business, first of all, you have to commit to emailing and to automating the email and not be intimidated about it. If you get that intimidated, just email me, jed@jedtv.com, and we'll talk, and I'll walk you through it, because I'm as intimidated as you are as we go this direction. The next thing is you have to find a way, especially on your website, to take in new leads, new people that you interact with. But you also have to consider all the emails you already have, people that are your stakeholders. And you have to start thinking about, they're going to get different messages than the people who just signed up on the website, but they should be getting a message regularly in an automated fashion.
Right.
And you don't have to feel bad about putting their email into the list. And if they, put on the bottom, they can opt out. If they've communicated with you for different reasons, they've still communicated with you, and you can put them into a different list. So you are dealing with your new leads and your current stakeholders. And you're talking about an entirely different set of contents that need to go to them. And we use MailChimp, and it's pretty easy. It's like, all right, they're on this track, and then you put a bunch in another email list, and they're on this track. but there is a regular track. Well, they'll get a birthday thing, or they'll get a hint campaign. Talked a lot about the beauty salon. If they missed an appointment or something, you can just continue to follow up. And then, of course, if they haven't done anything, you have a reactivation campaign. The one that I'm most interested on this is that we have a new product. We want to know what people are thinking. How do you use email to get some feedback?
Yeah, so you sell a product to somebody, and whether you're selling it online or whatever, as long as you're gathering that email address, use it for research purposes, right? So again, we can ask for reviews, Google reviews, and all this.
That's different from
feedback. That's
feedback.
different from feedback. But let's say you start selling a new product, and you really want to understand how well it's being received. Go back, a month and send an email to everyone that has purchased this product, or set it up on an automation to where after they buy, if it's something that they use right away, a week later they get an email, or 2 weeks later they get an email that says, hey, we would love to know how well you like this product, this service, whatever it was. Can you give us some advice to make it better? Right? So you're not asking them like what's wrong, but you're essentially saying like, we're listening to you. We want to make it better if it wasn't 100% already. Like, can you give us some insights, right? And use that, because people are more inclined to answer something like that than to say, hey, can you give us a 5-star review on that latest product that you just bought? It's more interesting because you're building your business and you're listening, you're asking these questions to people, and they're going to give you real answers coming back. So you can fix the problems without going too far into it. But if you get that constant loop of feedback, it's golden, right? It's absolutely golden.
So just to simplify it, there's 2 easy tracks to follow. You got your new people that are coming in, and you got to have it on your website, and however you initiate contact with someone, but you get the email address that comes in with some level of interest. And then you have people that already have interest. Like let's just say if you just did 2 things. You set that up for new things coming in, and you set it up for all your people that already somehow have written you a check, and you just did those 2 tracks. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, it's fine. Obviously, we're talking about people that aren't very comfortable, haven't spent a ton of time in email. And you'll see a lot of people where they'll build just list after list after list after list. And what I try to tell people is try to have as little amount of lists as possible, because what happens is you don't know where things are going at that point. So you can actually use tags within your list to say, okay, they came in, on this date or whatever it may, like you can tag all of it for, these people only buy when there's promotional items. These people are only interested in this kind of product, right? So if you put those types of tags in there, you can have one centralized list, and you can say, okay, for this email, I want to send it out to obviously this list, but I only want people that are tagged here. So, for example, Walmart back in the day, I've seen their email lists and all of this, and they have huge amount of database of emails, and they'll send out millions and millions and millions of emails for one email, and then they'll have another one that'll be like 28,000, and it's very specific to a product that was purchased, right? So it's
some specific line of perfume.
Exactly, right? So they understand that you've got to segment and you've got to do different things, but your goal should be to get one master list that you can tag certain things in there. And that's challenging. I'm not throwing that out to everyone here.
So and I've taken the class, so I've seen how this works, and we use MailChimp. So you are segmenting the market, and not to get too deep into it, instead of having all these separate lists, you're really trying to go for one master list where you may tag a loyal customer in 3 or 4 of your different segments. Mm-hmm. But the tag, master list versus segment or different lists. And I see where you're going. We don't do that. We just have different lists, and it's too confusing. That may be your best tip out of this episode. That's where you're headed.
Yeah.
A master list with different tags.
Yeah. I mean, let's go back to the digital marketing competition, right? So I have a professor list and I have a student list. And I realize that, students typically don't come back. They're usually seniors that participate. Occasionally we get people that come back. But the professor list, I have the professor list for this semester. So active, the ones that are participating in this current semester. But once we're done, I take that list, I drop all of those professors into the master professor list, and I wipe the other one clean, right? So it's gone. So it's a reoccurring, like we specialize because they have different automations that are going. So it wouldn't make sense for me to send the case study to the hundreds and hundreds of professors that we have on this list because they're not all participating, right? So if I have 150 professors on there that are active, they should get that message versus the others that aren't active.
So they're in a master list, but they've been tagged.
Correct.
And the professors that are gone, you're not throwing away their email, but you're not tagging them on the current stuff. You may do one email to everyone on your list that kind of just says, "Hey, we're having this in 2 weeks" or something like that. They may be on that tag, but they're not on the tag for the current competition.
Right. So we launch the spring version January 2nd. January 2nd, every professor on that list will get an email from us. After that, it's only the people that actually have registered into it. So it's basically like, we're back. This is what we're doing. Here's our clients. If you want to be part of it, register. And that's where we go from there.
No one knows more about how to set up email marketing campaigns than our own Matt Hansen. If you want to take any of his marketing classes, such as our producer right here is going to take his master's, she's taking the marketing campaigns class. So you are going to already be light years ahead of everybody else. But I will tell you this, he's very demanding, and there's a verbal final that you got to go through, and but the end result is that you will know how to do our email marketing campaigns, and that would just give you another job. So Adriana Alvarez, thank you for producing. Matt, final thoughts?
Don't be afraid of email automation. Learn it. Take an hour, go in there and just set up a simple one. Even if you don't even use it, just play with it to understand it. It's so simple. It's literally drag and drop at this point.
Tell your friends, your small and medium-sized businesses about Mastering Local Marketing podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, see you later.
All right, I'll be back.